The Smartest Giant in Town by Julia Donaldson and Alex Scheffler. George was a giant, the scruffiest giant in town. He always wore the same pair of old brown sandals and the same old patched up gown. I wish I wasn't the scruffiest giant in town, he said sadly. But one day, George noticed a new shop. It was full of smart clothes. So he bought a smart shirt, a smart pair of trousers, a smart belt, a smart stripy tie, some smart socks with diamonds by the sides, and a pair of smart shiny shoes. Now I'm the smartest giant in town, he said proudly. George left his old clothes behind in the shop. He was about to go home when he heard a sound on the pavement. There stood a giraffe. "What's the matter?" asked George. "It's my neck," said the giraffe. "It's so very, very long and so very, very cold. I wish I had a long, warm scarf." "Cheer up," said George, and he took off his stripy tie. "It didn't match my socks anyway," he said as he wound it round and round the giraffe's neck. It made a wonderful scarf. "Thank you," said Giraffe. As George strode towards home, he sang to himself, "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe, but look, this giant in town." George came to a river. On a boat stood a goat who was bleating loudly. "What's the matter?" asked George. "It's my sail. It blew away in a storm, and I wish I had a strong new sail for my boat." "Cheer up," said George, and he took off his new white shirt. "It kept coming untucked anyway," he said as he tied it to the mast of the goat's boat. It made a magnificent sail. "Thank you," said the goat. George strode on singing to himself, "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe, my shirt on a boat is a sail for a goat. But look at me, up and down, I'm the smartest giant in town." George came to a tiny ruined house. Beside the house stood a white mouse with a lot of babies. "What's the matter?" asked George. "It's our house," squeaked the mother mouse. "It burned down and now we haven't nowhere to live. I wish we had a new house." "Chap," said George, and he took off one of his shiny shoes. "It was giving me blisters anyway," he said. As the mouse and the baby scrambled inside, the shoe made a perfect home for them. "Thank you," they said. George had to hop along the road now, but he didn't mind. As he hopped, he sang to himself, "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe, my shirt on a boat is a sail for a goat, my shoe is a house for a little white mouse. But look at me, up and down, I'm the smartest giant in town." George came to a campsite. Beside the tent stood a fox who was crying. "What's the matter?" "It's my sleeping bag. I dropped it in a puddle, and I wish I had a warm, dry sleeping bag." "Cheer up," said George. He took off one of his socks with the diamonds at the sides. "It was tickling my toes anyway," he said, as the fox snuggled into it. "Ah, it's a very fine sleeping bag." "Thank you," said the fox. George hopped on singing to himself, "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe, my shirt on a boat is a sail for a goat, my shoe is a house for a little white mouse, one of my socks is a bed for a fox. But look at me, up and down, I'm the smartest giant in town." George came to a big bog. Beside the bog stood a dog who was howling. "What's the matter?" "It's this bog," said the dog. "I need to get across and I get stuck in the mud. I wish there was a path to go through." Jap, said George. He took off his smart new belt. It was hurting my tummy anyway, he said, as he laid it down over the bog. It made an excellent bath. Thank you, said the dog. The wind started to blow, but George didn't mind. He hopped on singing to himself. My tie is a scarf for a gold giraffe, my shirt on a boat as a sail for a goat, my shoe is a house for a little white mouse, one of my socks is a bed for a fox, my belt helped a dog who was crossing a bog, but my trousers are falling down, and now I'm the coldest giant in town. He felt shivering. I have to go back to the shop and buy some new clothes, he decided. He turned around and hopped all the way back to the shop. When he got there, it was closed. Oh no, said George. He sank down on the doorstep and a tear ran down his nose. He felt as sad as all the animals he had met on his way home. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw a big bag with something familiar poking out of the top. He had a closer look. My gown! My dear gold sandals! George put them on. They felt wonderfully comfortable. I am the coziest giant in town, he cried, and walked home. Outside the front door stood all the animals he had helped, and they were carrying an enormous present. Come on, George, open it, they said. George untied the ribbon. Inside was a beautiful gold paper crown and a card. Look at the card, they said. He looked at the card, and it said, your tie is a scarf for a giraffe. Your shirt is a boat as a sail for a goat. Your shoe is a house for a little white mouse. One of your socks is a bed for a fox. Your belt helped a dog who was crossing a bog. So here is a very fine crown to go with the sandals and gown to the kindest giant in town. You, George, is the kindest giant in this town. Thank you.